Welcome back, everyone, to the Craft Company podcast. Today, the tables have turned, and it's my turn to interview you, Emma. So,
Yeah.
Emma, why don't you give us a bit of an intro about who you are, where you're from, and your background?
So my name is Emma, and I now live in Cornwall. I used to live in Welwyn Garden in Hertfordshire. And me and my husband had two bike shops when we lived there, and we decided we really wanted to change the way that we lived, really. We were sort of always trying to get to the beach, and our shops were open 6 days a week. So we were only available to go anywhere on a Monday. And Hertfordshire, I don't know if you know this, quite a long way from the beach. Not close. So yeah, we would literally drive either on a Sunday night or on a Monday. We'd just drive to go to the beach, and we do that like nearly every week. And it was just getting a bit crazy. We were like, this isn't really how we want to live anymore. Um, and we actually had only been to Cornwall like a couple of times before we decided to move. Um, and we did like a little trip down here, and we stayed in like a night in a different place all around to try and sort of figure out where we wanted to be. Um, and Newquay just felt kind of quite right for us because, and actually, in saying that, we'd never actually been into the town before we moved.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah. Um, but actually, I do love it. It's a bit. Some people sort of think that it's, I don't know. People moan about their town centres wherever you are, don't they? But I really love Newquay Town Centre. There's a few bigger shops, but there's lots of independent, and there's just lots going on there. Um, so we really liked it here though because of the beaches. So we can get to about 8 different beaches, and they're all completely different within 10 minutes.
Wow.
So, which is a bit of a difference from being about 2.5 hours really from a beach. Well, a beach that you'd want to go to. So yeah, it's like a proper beach, you know what I mean? So
That's
yeah, it's
amazing.
just yeah. So we decided to move, sold the shops because it well, for a while actually we were commuting backwards and forwards, which was crazy. And then I decided that I wanted to give somebody a wire sign for Christmas. And I left it too late, so I couldn't order it from anyone. So I thought, oh, I'll just make it myself. I'm sure I can have a go at that. I'm one of those sort of people that's like, oh, I can have a go at doing that. I mean, like here we are, for example, we are doing a podcast, and I really do not know what I'm doing. So I'm like, yeah, we can do that. That'll be fine. Uh, so I got some supplies and whatnot, and I made it. And I thought, you know what? I think it looks pretty good. Like, I think I can do this. So in the January, I think it was like the 7th of January or something, I decided to like upload it onto Etsy, which I'd never used before. I had no idea what I was doing. So I uploaded it, and I actually uploaded 4 listings, but all the pictures were the same. So my idea was that I had one that was just a hello sign. So literally, I've even got it here. So if you're watching, then you'll be able to see this is my hello sign. I don't know, is that the
Oh,
right way round? I'm always rubbish at knowing
yes.
whether it's like turned around, you know what I mean? So that was my very first sign that I ever made. And I made these listings. I thought I'll have a hello sign, and then I'll have 3 different fonts. But I literally had only made one sign. So I took photos of that, just uploaded the photo of that, and thought nothing of it. I'll switch the photos out. And so I get up in the morning, and it's like, you have an order. And I was like, oh, it must be like a test thing from Etsy, just being like, this is what like an order might be like. No, genuine order. And they've
Wow.
ordered a font in a font that I haven't even got the picture from, because that isn't the font. I was like, oh, now what do I do? I just went with the font that it looked like rather than the one that I'd said, if that makes sense. Um, but it was quite amazing actually. The first order was some writing, and they ordered "Be brave," and I was
Oh,
like, "That's so cool for your first order of this thing being like, I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm not sure if this is a good thing." And it was like, "Be brave." It's like, oh
it's a
my
bit
god, this is
serendipitous.
yeah. I was like, this is a
Yeah.
sign. This is a sign. I'm doing the right thing. So yeah, so I started off doing with words, and then slowly started getting into more like animals and things like that. And now I do portraits, and I do all sorts of things. So it's all from one piece of wire. So I generally draw everything out first, and then I try and translate that into wire. And a lot of the time that doesn't work. Wire doesn't move the same way as a pencil like does, and it doesn't. Things that in 3D don't always translate in the way that they do in 2. So yeah, sometimes you like that. Is that the right way up? And you know, and that's not kind of work. So you have to go back to the drawing board and literally start again. Yeah, but it's quite fun. Like it's kind of it allows me to be creative. So I really enjoy doing things like animals. I do loads of dogs. And now I'm doing a bit more of the portrait side of things. So if you like, you know, people send in like pictures of their family, I can do things where like maybe a family member wasn't able to be at an event, or you know, maybe they've passed away or something like that, and I can include them in. And so that's a really nice thing to do. And that's obviously a complete one-off, and they're quite complicated to do. Yeah. But that kind of keeps it interesting for me. I think otherwise it would start to get a bit boring just doing the same thing over and over. I'm not really about that, well, as you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither of us are very good at sticking to one
No.
thing, are we? No.
What made you even think about wire in the first place? Like, had you
I
seen it
literally saw
somewhere?
some, yeah. I'd seen somebody that got it, and I thought, oh, that would be a really good gift for my friend. And it was just before Christmas, and I mean just before Christmas. So I need to maybe state something. I am what I would call a serial crafter.
Mm-hmm.
So I buy a lot of equipment, a lot of supplies. Don't
You
always use
made
all of them.
me something for Christmas. Do you remember?
No, what did I make you?
You made me one of those little wooden houses, like the
Oh,
snow scene houses,
yeah.
years and years ago. And I still put it on my
What
Christmas
about
tree every
that?
year.
No
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did. I saw that as well. I was like, I can make one of them. Bought a load of supplies and making it all up. Yeah. That
It
was
was
like,
really good.
God, 2016, 2017, maybe, when we met.
Yeah.
It was then though. Yeah. Because we were sort of between houses, and I needed some sort of crafty outlet. And I literally had a Wellington boot box, and I literally filled it with paint and like offcuts of wood and like fake moss. And yeah, and to be honest, I haven't really used most of that stuff since then. Still got it. But yeah, I'm quite bad at like just being, oh yeah, I'll get that. I'll have a go at that. I'll do that, and why not? And then yeah, it has got slightly out of hand. The only good thing is my husband also has a hobby. He has Warhammer everywhere. And I mean literally everywhere. I've got massive boards in here that are like, I don't even know what they are. But like his stuff is everywhere. So I can kind of get away with having my own craft stash. But it
Yeah.
is getting slightly out of hand.
Like
Slightly.
any good hobby slash passion, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah,
And
it is getting
so
slightly out of hand.
when we met, you weren't doing anything crafty. Talk us through what you were doing at that stage.
So that point in time, we had the bike shop. So we were running those, and I was running some really big events with those. So we used to do the Tour of Hertfordshire series, where we literally closed down town centres
Wow.
and did like racing throughout the whole day. And so it was like we'd have like proper races for like people that were like really competing, and they have like their licenses and all that kind of thing. But we also had like the balance bike race for like toddlers. And we'd have a folding bike challenge where you had to like run
Oh,
and unfold your bike and then do a lap round and then fold it again. And then we also had like all ability rides. So the idea was really to be very inclusive. And I'm really proud of that part actually, that we were always thinking about being inclusive and making sure that everybody could take part. So the all ability bikes, literally if you're in a wheelchair or you had limited movement, whatever it was, there was all sorts of different bikes that you could use and have a go on and stuff. So that was really exciting. So I was doing that, and a lot of the marketing stuff for the shops. That was predominantly what I was doing. I was also the vice chair of the Welwyn Garden City bid, which is business improvement district. So I don't know if anybody knows about it, but the general gist is that you go to a vote for the town centre, all the shops, all the businesses in the town centre. And if they agree, they then say that they'll put a percentage of their rateable value, so it's an extra payment, towards things that the council don't do. So beyond what the council are already doing. So it wouldn't cover things like, I don't know, bin collection, for example, because the council are already doing bins. But it might cover things like events being put on, or it might be in Hitchin, where we had one of our other shops, they used to do an extra waste management for businesses. So we used to have all our cardboard collected, which I'm going to tell you now, as a bike shop, was bloody handy because there's a lot of cardboard boxes involved in that. So it was kind of you agree to on what you want it to be spent on. So it could be environment, it could be in all sorts of different things. And so I was involved with that, which was a really exciting time actually. So I was involved from before we actually got the vote, going through the vote, and then actually putting those plans into place. So I was doing that, and then on the sideline of that, I've had this idea to build a website for dog owners where you would find dog friendly places to go. And so that'd be attractions, that'd be pubs, that'd be all sorts. And there were places out there that kind of did that already, but they didn't have half the places on that I knew were dog friendly. So it was like, and then a lot of it would be out of date. And so you'd go somewhere, or you'd have a look, you'd double check, and like either the place wouldn't exist anymore, or they weren't dog friendly anymore, or they weren't really dog friendly. You
Yeah.
know, they say that they were, and then you get there and they're like, yes, dogs can be in the garden. And you're like, well, yeah, of course they can be in the garden. Like, but it's raining and I want to be inside. Like,
Yeah.
so I thought this is a really good idea. And it was a good idea, but I knew nothing about what I was doing. So I learned how to use WordPress and built a whole website in that. But so much of my time was spent doing that and money on that, that then I hadn't got really the money to spend on advertising. And what I hadn't really appreciated was that I needed businesses to add themselves, really. That's
Yeah.
what I really needed them to do. And most businesses, that wasn't their main point of what they did. It was just an added extra, yes, you can come in with a dog. They weren't that bothered about adding the listing. So I spent hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how I could get people on, and then, you know, I'd need to update the website, and then I'd be like, oh, actually, this is a better idea. I can do this. And so it was like, what I would say is it was a massive learning curve. And I've used so many of the skills that I learned from that have made me loads of money since, and have been really, really helpful since. So I now know how to build a website. So when it came to building my website for the wire writing company, I just built my own website, and it took me a couple of days because I knew what I was doing. And I built it in WordPress, which is a free to use website. So all I'm paying for every year is my like hosting domain, and that's it. There's no like ongoing cost, other than like a credit card fee, but that's it. So like in a way, it saved me a lot of money. And
Yeah.
also I've been able to charge people for building websites for other things. So it was really, really exciting, sort of like learning how to do all these things, but the website didn't work and it doesn't exist anymore. And it kind of, it's one of those things that's really annoying because I feel like it could really still be a good thing, but,
Definitely.
and maybe someday I'll go back to it because I have got kind of all of the things sort of there, but it's just not now. Yeah.
You seem to have like always had a business head on your shoulders. Where does that come from? What influenced you to be so
Mm.
business minded?
So my dad has always worked for himself. He's always had his own businesses, and he also has always had his fingers in a lot of pies. And I also used to work for him for a while. So he has like publishing companies. He also used to sell wholesale to people. And he also has a hotel. Currently building a boat, which we won't go into that because that is a can of worms. But he was one of those sort of people. And so I was really fortunate in that I'd always seen somebody else who had a business, and that it was always an option for me. Whereas I think a lot of other people, um, going into, especially like in the craft side of things, because it's kind of quite an easy thing to get into. Maybe you've already started crafting something that, for yourself, and then somebody says, oh, you could sell those, and then it's like, oh, actually, maybe I could sell those. And then you sort of gradually get into it, quite a gradual thing, rather than going, I'm setting up a business. This is what I'm doing today, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas that was sort of more my view was more, I'm setting up a business because that's
Yeah.
my mentality. And also my experience that I've already had from, like, I've already set up other businesses, but also I've seen that modeled from my dad. Whereas I think if you haven't had that, then that becomes a lot more difficult. And also explaining that to other people that just work a 9 to 5 or
Yeah.
always have done, trying to get them to support. I mean, I see it a lot in like the like forums and stuff, and like on Facebook groups that I'm in, of people saying, oh, my parents just don't understand, or my husband just doesn't get it. And even though I'm making money, they still think that I need to get a quote unquote proper job. And it's like that this is a proper job, and actually there is a lot more risk to it. Then maybe I quite like a risk. I don't know. A calculate that is true. I do like a risk, but I like a calculated risk. I like to know
Yeah.
that financially that I can afford to do something, that I'm not putting us really at risk in doing something. And like when I set the wire writing company up, like it cost me so little to do it. And I mean, setting up on Etsy,
Yeah.
I got my first 40 listings free, which everybody can do. Yeah, and so it was really simple. It wasn't like, oh, I've got this massive outlay. I already had a phone to take the photos. It was kind of quite simple. Whereas with the bike shop, that was a lot more risky. I mean, that was tens and tens of thousands of pounds that we're putting on the line. And
Yeah.
then we opened a second shop, in hindsight, probably not at the right time. And it financially was really, really difficult. And that put massive strain on everything. So, I, yeah, I quite like a risk, but then I've sort of maybe been a bit too risky at certain points.
Yeah.
Um, and now I've sort of reeled that back in. So now I'm much more calculated about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, can you tell me some more about your Etsy experience? Because from what you've said already, it sounds like Etsy's been amazing for you. Not everybody has that experience. So,
Yeah. So I have a sort of a love-hate relationship with Etsy. I think a lot of people do. It's a great platform. Um, However, they market themselves as being handmade. And if you go on there, there are hundreds of listings that are absolutely not handmade, that are just
mhm.
mass produced in China and just being shipped out. And you're trying to compete with that. And that's kind of quite tricky. Um, the other side of it is that it's really free, like it's free to set it up. It's really, really simple, and anyone can do it. So the entry to the barrier to entry, sorry, is really, really low. You don't need to have your own website. You can, just start out with Etsy. What I would say though is that I see a lot of people saying, oh, I'm just going to set up a Shopify account. And what I don't think people fully understand is Shopify is your own website. It's not remotely like Etsy. Etsy is a marketplace. They bring you customers. Shopify is your own website, in the same way that mine is built on WordPress. And I choose to do WordPress because A, I know how to build in WordPress, and B, it is free, and Shopify absolutely isn't. So I went down the cheaper route. But you then have to bring all of your own customers. So I actually do way more sales through Etsy. And I find it much easier. And there are costs involved with that. But because of the value of my items, it works out at about 10% that I lose to Etsy from each sale. And that includes the payment processing fee, which I will still have to pay on my own website.
Yeah.
So it depends. If you're selling, say, a sticker, I can imagine that it's not 10%, it's way more, because your listing fee is always the same amount, which is like 20p. So if 20p is of something that's £1, that's a lot more than something that's a 15 or £20, right?
For
So
sure.
yeah, so it kind of works differently for different people. but I found that it worked really well. And I have had ups and downs with it. But generally speaking, it's been pretty good. I have found recently that sales have dropped off quite a bit. COVID was insane. It was just absolutely mad. I was so busy. My hands were like wrecked.
Oh,
Actually, it hurts quite a lot when you bend what I would call like a hard bend, where you sort of are overlaying two pieces of wire that have to go straight on top of each other to sort of look like they aren't there. So it's one piece almost. I don't quite know how to explain that very well. Um,
mhm.
but you have to like use like pliers or something really to do it, and it requires quite a lot of strength to put that through. And if you're doing that over and over and over again, and actually even just pushing stuff, I mean, I've got some that are like uh I made like a cockapoo. Now to do a cockapoo, you have to have like wavy fur, and it's metal. So how do you do that? So I make it literally like I bend it up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I do that with my fingers. And if I've got five of those in a day that I've got to make, like it's just like, oh my God, this is so bad.
Is that one
And
of
I
your
won't
best
lie,
sellers?
for a while it was really, really good. It's funny actually, I go through phases of selling loads of the same thing. My hello signs have always done really, really well. Um, fuck it. Oh man, people love to fuck it. So I did that really, really well. My whip it sold really, really well for a long time. And then I sold a couple recently, but then it just dropped off in the mean, in between. So it's kind of a bit weird like that. Um, but yeah, so I actually also sell a lot internationally, which a lot of other people are a bit like
Oh,
reluctant about. I sell a lot to the States, like a lot.
wow.
And I think one of the reasons is that actually I don't think there's very many people doing what I do in the States, whereas I think there's more people that do it here. So I've got less competition.
Yes.
And a lot of the people that are in the UK that do it don't ship internationally.
Yeah.
So I do send to the States, send a lot there. I used to send quite a bit to Europe. That has now become a lot more complicated. So the EU brought in a directive a little while ago, basically stating that if you were sending something to somebody from a commercial point of view, you have to state how you're disposing of the waste and basically pay a fee to recycle your packaging. And that's gradually being brought in. But I don't disagree with what they've said, by the way. I think it's a great idea. What I think would have been a better idea is if they'd had one blanket fee that covered every EU state.
Yeah.
And what they've actually done is it's been left up to each country, and each country can decide how much they want that to be.
Oh gosh, that's a
So
minefield.
yeah, so you have to apply to each one, and I think it's Spain charged about €300. Now I don't send. I mean, I probably send 10 orders to Spain in a year. I'm not sending a load there. I send a lot to the States, like a lot to the
Yeah.
States. But I probably only send like to that one country that many times. I send a few to Italy. I send a few to Germany.
Yeah.
But for me, it doesn't make financial sense. And that's where it becomes annoying because I don't think it's been thought about from a small business point of view, where you're not
Yeah.
turning over millions of pounds. You're turning over, for some of us, maybe you're only turning over 10 grand, or you're turning over 20 grand, whatever it is. And you taking €300 out to send to one country just becomes prohibitive.
Yeah.
So I have had a bit of an issue with that, in that I've now decided not to sell through Etsy. Well, I'm not to send at all, actually, not just through Etsy, but I don't send to those like the countries that have got these things already bought in, and that's going to become more restrictive unless things change. Um, but what that's then done is, I think anyway, it's meant that those people now aren't buying from me. So Etsy now see that I'm not getting as much traffic, and then I'm not being pushed as much, and so therefore I get even fewer sales,
Oh,
which is frustrating.
that's a vicious circle,
Um,
isn't it?
yeah, a little bit. Um, but I think I've also come to this sort of realization that I really enjoy doing it, but it isn't what I want to do. So
Okay.
um I would like it to go more back to being like a side hustle type, more of a creative outlet than my main income stream.
Okay. How many hours a week are you spending making your wire art?
I try to do all of my making 1 day a week. So I make
Okay.
everything on 1 day a week and then I post it all out. And I generally try and post it on a Friday so
Yeah.
that it doesn't arrive really until Monday. So that then nobody contacts me over the weekend going, oh, it's not the right colour, or I this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. I think, oh God, I can't deal with you at the weekend. So I send it on a Friday so it doesn't get there until Monday.
Monday's problems.
Yeah, exactly, right? I was like, oh God, I'm not doing that. Yeah. Um, but that actually is also a bit of an issue with Etsy, is that they've now made it so they've got this new star seller program, which I'm never going to achieve, by the way, because I don't buy my postage through there. Basically, is the main issue with it. I like to support my local post office, who, by the way, if you find a good post office, they are worth their weight in gold. Like they
Absolutely.
are, ours are amazing. Big shout out to Steve. They ring me if a parcel is a couple of grams over the next price point.
Yes.
And they'll be like, can you take any packaging out of it to bring it back under so you don't have to pay for the next
Oh,
price up? They do things like that. Like they are incredible. Um, and and I want to keep supporting them. I want to support a local business because that's what they are. And it also keeps things going for other people who, if I don't send my post to them, then the old lady that needs to go and use them because all the banks have shut, like she can't go and get her withdraw her pension or whatever. So
absolutely.
I'm like really a massive supporter of the post office, which means that I can't get star seller basically on Etsy because they want tracking and they want, and I'm not doing, because it costs way too much money and it's all anyway. But one of the other things that they put in the star seller is that you have to reply to a message within 24 hours.
Okay.
With as a small business, when do you get your time off? When do you get to
Yeah,
spend time with your kids? When do you get like? I just think it's unreasonable, and
100%.
it's sort of trying to make it out like you're this massive corporation, like you're Amazon. We're not Amazon. We're little people working from our kitchen tables. That is what
Yeah,
most of us are doing. I literally make my stuff on my kitchen table now. Um, and we don't have loads of people to just pick up an email for us. We're doing it ourselves, and we're making and we're marketing it, and we're doing all these other jobs. um that is a bit frustrating, and I just think I'm not even going to bother trying to get a star seller because I if I don't reply to something in 24 hours, then that's because over the weekend, then that's fine, because that's how I want to run my business.
yeah.
um
I
but it
think
can
people
be
need to
frustrating.
get used to that as well, because I think now everybody's so used to everything being instant that
Yeah,
we do lose touch with the human side of it and take into account weekends and special
yeah,
occasions. And yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And so
yeah,
you
I totally
sell,
agree.
sorry, you sell
Yeah.
on Etsy as well as your website. How do you drive
Yes,
flow traffic to your website?
mainly through Instagram. And actually, just circling back to saying, that you giving this personal touch kind of thing. Um, I found that the people that I follow on Instagram are people who go on stories or share more about their lives or share more about their processes, or it's not necessarily going into detail in their lives, but they're more they show their faces generally, and you feel like you have a connection, and that's because people buy from people.
That's true.
That's what it comes down to. And if you look at the big brands, they're all trying to work with smaller people who have that connection with their audience. They want the small business vibe, if you will. Like that's what they want. And as a small business, we have that. So yeah, so I use Instagram mainly. I have got Facebook. I find it a nightmare for a small business like that. Um, some people have found groups and things work better. I just find it frustrating. Instagram was working really well for me. Then they brought in Reels.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they decided that I wasn't allowed it.
What?
So my account didn't have Reels for a year and a half after it came out. I couldn't
You're
get
the
it.
only
And
person
I
who's ever told me
complained.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I look it up. I emailed them. I contact them. Obviously, nobody replies because they're Instagram and they don't care. And yeah, and like we get nothing back from it. And so I was missing out. And I've always been a firm believer in that. If something new comes along, if you're able to jump on it, because the first adopters of something are usually the people that do really well from that. So I was really
Yeah.
keen to get involved with Reels and I couldn't. And
I
I've
can
now
just see
totally
how
missed that. Like,
frustrated you would have been.
can you tell that I'm annoyed now? Because I'm annoyed now.
Yes.
I'm really annoyed. Because
Instagram,
it
you
just
need to
felt
apologize.
so unfair. Too right. Nobody apologise. Yeah, it was really, really frustrating. Um, and then all the views start dropping off, and it just became really difficult. And I then sort of just fell out of love with it. And so my interaction on there, like I don't go on very often, and I have basically left most stuff up to Etsy now. So I do have the website, people come back to me and whatnot, and I do have Instagram and I post occasionally, but I'm not on there all the time. Um, I have, however, joined Threads, which is an interesting place to be at the moment. Uh,
I
after the
haven't been on
fireball
it
that is,
for like since you told me to join it. I haven't been back on.
no, I haven't been on for a few days actually. I should go back on, but it's interesting. Um, I used to go on Twitter a lot, not to use it for my business, but I used to use Twitter Moments a lot to find out what was going on and stuff. And then, you know, Elon came in and took that away straight away and fired everybody. And what is he doing? Right? Okay, so this is basically a business podcast. If you want to know what not to do, take a look at Elon. I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something and he's got this grand plan. I don't think I am. I don't think he has a clue what he's doing. So Threads have come along. They're taking their opportunity, and yeah. So I've got on there, and there's a lot of creatives on there, and I think the thing that's really nice actually is because it's called Threads. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it's kind of like a crafty kind of place to be. So a lot of crafty
Yes.
people have joined, which is really cool. My dog's just arrived. Sorry,
Oh,
I
is
think
he
it.
gonna make a cameo?
Do you want to come on? Come up. Come here. Oh, yeah. There you go.
Hey,
You can stay there.
Ari. Oh, I haven't seen you in a long time.
Oh, he's looking.
Who's
You
a
can
good
see him.
boy? Hello, good boy.
Oh, he actually can't hear you, but you're used to that because you used to have a deaf dog
Oh,
and you
yeah, of
used to talk to him
course.
all the time.
That's true. And you know what? Side
Mm.
note, I still use the same hand signals that I used with my deaf dog on my toddler.
Do
I'll be like,
you? Do
yeah,
you?
it just became like such a way of life. And sometimes like Henry and I will be across the supermarket and
Oh, God,
we should have learned actual sign language. We just made up our own. But yeah, we
that's
do
so
use that.
funny. Yeah, you're just gonna be annoying, aren't you? You can tell. I'm gonna try and
Oh,
ignore him while he's, yeah,
he's the third co-host.
he is. He's a little mascot.
Oh. So you are working on something new, aren't you? Tell us about
Yes.
that.
So, and I think maybe I should do a little bit of backstory. I'm just moving cups here, for anybody that is watching, because he's going to jump down in a minute and he will land on them. So, yeah, I guess a little bit of backstory is that I have been wanting to find something else that I feel that I could move into and do something else and expand a little bit on. I didn't really know what it was that I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do something else. And I've had a lot of ideas over time, and and then we sort of I talked about doing this like podcast or variations of maybe not being a podcast and that kind of thing. Um, and then that sort of come and gone, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. And then we got married last September, and I got slightly obsessive about making things.
Not you.
So yes, me. So and I really wanted it to be very personal to us. So we technically got married like 2 weeks before. So we went to a
Hmm.
registry office, we did that side of things. And then we had our wedding and we got married in the Boardmasters Field, which is a festival field overlooking Wallsgate Bay. It's the most incredible place. But it literally is a field. So I had to bring everything in. So we had a marquee that we hired and some benches and tables and a dance floor. But I made or bought literally everything else.
Wow.
So
That's so awesome.
Yes, but now I've got a lot of that stuff. So, for example, I thought I really want an ice cream bike. Yeah, I literally have an ice cream bike in my garage, a proper ice cream bike. It's got like a freezer in it. Yeah, everything. I also have. So we did DIY drinks. So we got our friends who own a bar in town. We got them and their daughter and one of their barmen to run the bar for us. And I built the bar. Well, I didn't. I got someone else to help build that. But we literally built the bar, which is still in the garden. It's like 2.5 meters long. It's maybe even longer actually.
I
It's
think we need to
huge.
put photos up on Insta of all
Yeah.
these things that you're mentioning now, because this is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit insane. We built the bar, and then I was like, well, we need fridges, and I looked up how much money it was to rent. See, this is where I'm. Am I tight? I don't know. Um, there's a line, isn't there, between being tight and being like savvy, you know? And
Hmm.
I think I'm just the right side of it. But basically, I looked up and it was like to hire a fridge, it was going to cost like 60 quid or something. And I was like, oh, that's so expensive. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and it's like giving away a free fridge. So I'm like, well, John, you just go and collect. Honestly, every other day I'm getting them to go and collect stuff. So, but the problem is I still have all of it.
I'm
So,
sure.
yeah, so we have two under counter fridges, two under counter freezers. We have two glass fridges, like bottle
Yeah, yeah,
fridges with
yeah.
glass fronts. They're massive. We've got two of them all in the garage. The ice cream bike, obviously, right? Um, but yeah, it was a bit insane. So, but I also wanted to do things like really personalized stuff. So for anybody that is watching, I have got a couple of things with me. So I've got I made like our own guest book, and I designed all of the people, and drew all of the people out that were coming, and then people would
Wow.
colour them in. So I did that. I made that on Procreate because I already have that for Wire because I use that to how I draw things and everything, which is invaluable. And then I then got really excited about using that for like everything. And then I also did I decoupaged all of our like plants and stuff to go on the table, and then I put herbs and things in. The one that I've actually got here is from my friend's wedding. That I basically did the same thing again, but we didn't use herbs. I just popped this very straggly bit of basil in. But I love the smell of basil. It's like
Me
one of my
too.
best smells. But actually, it was so cheap. I literally used Ari's dog food tins, right? And then I painted them white, decoupage with napkins. So the napkins cost me like 2 quid. And then we just used herbs from the supermarket. So I just used like basil and rosemary and like got loads from like Aldi for like 75p. And then we could split them in half and put them in. So it wasn't even like, it was so cheap to do that. So there was a lot of things that I was like, oh, this is really clever. I really like this idea. And, all that kind of thing. Made a bit of wire stuff for it. We actually even made our own rings. So our wedding bands, we went to we went to a lady. So I've actually got three. Because you make the first one just out of normal like a wire sort of metal. So I made that one first, and then we wanted it to have sand in from the beach where we got engaged, and we
Oh,
actually got Ari to dig it up.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we did
Oh,
that. He's a little digging up. And then you glue that onto the ring, and then you cast it. But I needed white gold because my engagement ring's white gold, and we couldn't get it up to temperature enough in this lady's workshop. So what we had to do is make it out to silver. So I now have a silver version, and then she sent that off to another person to cast it in white gold, and then it literally just came. So all they did was pour the thing. That was the only part that they did, and then we but we polished it and we literally did all of it. So I made John's and John made mine.
that's
That
so
was
cool.
like, it was really, really cool and actually not very expensive. So
I've
it
never
was a
even
really, really
heard
cool
of
thing.
that. That is such a cool
Yeah,
thing to do.
I know. It was
I want
really,
to go
really cool.
do
It was
that
a lovely
now.
day out. Do it. I think if you just wanted a silver ring, the lady that I went to, I think it was £350 for 2 rings for the two of you to do a
Wow,
full day course,
that's
and she
amazing.
provided biscuits. So I mean, it was Yeah. Oh, and one of the other things that I made, I thought I'd show for everybody that is watching, and we'll put it up. But I made our own cups.
Oh,
I had them designed, so I literally drew
oh, that's
every single
Ari.
item. Yeah, so I drew all the things that are like meaningful to us. So,
Yeah,
yeah, like flip-flops, sunglasses. You will always see me in a pair of sunglasses. I debated putting them on earlier, but yeah.
same
So we
here.
literally did. We made so many things. So after, well, actually, even on the day, everybody kept going to me. The attention to detail is like insane. Like what, like everyone could see what I'd done, and like, because it was obvious. Like it was a bit crazy. Um, and also, so when I worked for my dad back in the day, I used to organize events like B2B events. So I had a lot of experience in like, we do like exhibitions for like 10,000 people in the same place at the same time.
Wow.
And predominantly it was my role to like look after that. And then I'd done all the like cycling events where again, we're looking like 10, 15,000 people attending. So, organizing a wedding for like 100 people was, for me, it was just like organizing another event, but I just wanted to be much more personal. So I kind of really knew what I was doing. Everybody kept going to me, you should be doing this for a living. This is what you should be doing. And I was like, I get what you're saying, and I like this idea. But the problem is, um, I like doing things that I want to do. And so if I'm doing someone
Yeah,
else's wedding and they want to do something, and I'm like, oh, that's such a crap idea. Like for me, not for them.
yeah.
Everyone's personal, right? But I just like, I don't think that I'd have that same maybe feeling about it and wanting to do it as
The
much. I
same
don't know.
passion. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, but what I had found is that I've really enjoyed making loads of things and really enjoyed designing things. And one of the things that I'd bought about a year beforehand, um, I'd done really well with wire, and I never normally do this, but I wanted to like just treat myself to something that was kind of a bit frivolous, that I just wanted not to make money from, but I just wanted. And so I bought myself a cricket machine, and I bought it during Black Friday. So I bought the best machine with like all the bits and pieces, right? And then when it came round to like our wedding and stuff and getting married, so we actually only got engaged in February and got married in September. So it's really, really quick. And I found that I was like using my cricket like so much.
Mhm.
And like I made t-shirts, and I made like I really went to town on using stuff. Like I did all sorts with it. Um, but I really enjoyed doing things. I really enjoyed doing the crafting with the cricket, and then I also really enjoyed like learning lots of other things, like learning like decoupage and like although I didn't actually finish them myself, I very much started and then abandoned. I made my own Converse. We had embroidered Converse, and then
Okay.
thankfully my sister-in-law came along and helped out with that because I ran out of time. Um, really hard to push through Converse actually. If you're going to do it, I did it again at Christmas. Buy fake Converse because they're not as thick. That would be my advice to anybody for that one. But I really enjoyed doing all these different things, and I was just like, I want to keep learning. I want to keep doing things. I've already now got a lot of equipment because I bought loads of stuff for the wedding, and then I kept buying, and also I bought my cricket already, so I already had that. And I was like, I think it would be really cool to have like a place where you can come and learn how to do loads of different craft workshops sort of things. So loads of different types of craft. And I I'd seen that other people were doing it. So like the lady that we went to do the rings, for example, she does jewelry making. But I had to like really extensively try and find somebody that did that. It took me ages to find the right person and the right place and blah 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 blah, right? Now, if I want to go and learn how to do embroidery, I've now got to go and find someone else somewhere else, you know? And what I thought would be really cool is to have one place where you can come and you can learn how to do some sort of jewelry making. Maybe not quite to the extent because you may need more equipment than we can manage, but you can do some sort of jewelry making. We can do embroidery. You can learn how to use a cricket. You can do wire making. You can do all sorts of things, um, and all in one place. And I thought, there's nothing actually really in Nuki really that does that. Um, and so I sort of started about the process of setting that up. So, and we're still very much in that process. We're not open yet, but we're hoping to be open in September.
That
Yeah.
is so exciting. So you've got premises and everything already.
So, well, yeah, we're just finalising all the premises at the moment. So that actually was quite a tricky process. So earlier on, I was saying about how, I like a calculated risk.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at units that you didn't have to be in for a really long time. So you didn't have a massive commitment. So when we used to have the bike shops, you're looking at a 3 to 5 year lease, and you're paying a lot of money. You've got rates and all that kind of thing. And I was like, well, I don't necessarily need something as big. So hopefully I can get something that's small enough that comes under the rateable value.
Yeah.
Finding something locally with that was really tricky. So in Newquay, there aren't really very many small units available at the moment, which is a great thing because it means that it's flourishing. The only units are like really massive units that are, like, to be honest, way overpriced. And I don't know how they're going to get somebody in there. But we're talking £3,500 a month. And I was like, well, that's just crazy, crazy talk.
Yeah. Especially for a
Um,
new venture.
yeah. So then I looked at a local development that's building like a load of houses, and then they're building some units, and we spoke to them, and they just wanted a really massive commitment. And then they said, well, you can't have a shop frontage, you can only be in one of the offices upstairs. And I said, okay, well, where's the signage to say that they're there? This is a brand new unit, right?
Yeah.
And they say, oh, well, we haven't really thought about where people would put signage for that. I'm like, right, okay, well, it's like, well, can we put something in the windows? And they're like, oh, well, we're not sure because it might not look aesthetically how we want it. But there'll be a space on the buzzer for you to put your name. Genuinely, that was what they thought would be acceptable. To put, like, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, how big is that? Like 10 centimeters as the advertisement of where you are.
That's
And it was
crazy.
expensive, right? And they wanted like a longer commitment. They wanted like 3 to 5 year commitment. And it was a lovely space, but they just hadn't thought through. Like, I suppose if you're a business that you don't need to advertise where you are, then fair enough. But how many people are really like that?
Yeah.
Most people need some form of advertising of where they are, even just
Yeah.
to say to a customer that's walking by, like, they're in the right place. You know,
Exactly.
I don't
Exactly.
know, or deliveries even. Anyway, so that kind of went out the window a little bit. And then we looked at another unit that was on like an industrial estate sort of thing, and they've got a load of like shipping container units and some bigger units and that kind of thing. And then there was something about the meeting that we had, and I was just like, it doesn't feel right. And when you just feel in your gut, it just doesn't feel right. And then we
Yeah.
got an email from them that was, you know, we told them how much we used to turn over with the bike shops and stuff. And, we were turning over like just shy of £1 million a year with the bike shops, right?
Wow.
So, it was a substantial business. We know what we're doing. This is very low risk, very small kind of thing. And we asked for a month rent free while we set up the unit, which isn't unusual at all. And we asked for a slight reduction on the rent because it was, in our opinion, overpriced, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't a lot. It was about £50 a month, something like that we asked for it to be reduced by. And they said no. And then they said, how are you actually proposing that you're even going to pay for the unit for the first few months then, when you're even... I was like, well, we've planned for that. We have that money set.
Yeah.
Like, we're not stupid. We have done this before,
Yeah.
you know? And it was just that the meeting didn't feel right. Then to get that email, and I was just like, it doesn't feel right. And then I was talking to John. It was one night. He was about to go to bed, and I was like, "Oh, it doesn't seem right." And he's like, "Right, hang on a minute." And he went and got the cider out the fridge. And he's like, "We're doing this now. Like, we need to have this conversation now. I'm really tired, but we just need to. We need a drink. Like, let's chill out. Let's just like, boom, we're in this. Let's just talk out through all the options." And then I sort of mentioned that there were these units in the middle of the town centre that at the time I thought were shipping containers, but I've since been told look like a shipping container, but are not shipping containers. And they're quite
Okay.
specific about that, which is fine. But they're kind of that sort of size, right? And I was like, that would be kind of quite cool. It's a really good location. The view
Yeah, very
is
funky.
stunning, right? It is incredible, and it's right in the middle of the town centre. And then I knew the idea was that they're wanting to get new businesses to go in, and that they have like a limit. So you have to really be in there for a year. They want you to commit for a year, but you can't be in there more than 5. And it's on a rolling month by month basis. So if in 18 months time or 17 months time, whatever it is, we're like, actually we need more space, we can move out. And that's kind of their idea, that they want people to move out and move onto the high street and then keep that ball rolling, which is amazing.
Yeah.
They're owned by the council. So it's been a bit of a process doing that. It literally had to have a meeting with councillors, and they're volunteers. So getting 2 volunteers to be available at the same time, like, just incredible. Like, it was crazy. So that took like over 6 weeks just to organise that meeting for them to
Wow.
say, yes, we kind of like you or not. Like, oh, okay.
We like your idea.
Yeah, but like the rent's really cheap. There's no rates on it. And like, it is just an incredible place to be. It's smaller than I thought it might be, which the only problem I can foresee really with that, I mean, there's 2 issues. One, it means that we can't do really big stuff in there, or we have to have a lot fewer people that are partaking in it. But 2, all the craft stuff that I've got here can't go there.
It's staying in your garage,
In my
isn't
head, I was
it?
like, this is fine. We'll move all this stuff. We'll get it all out. We'll get it all into the workshop. I can get all these things and it'll be all fine. And now I'm like, I can't move it all. The only other thing also that the council sort of said is that they want us to be open like regular hours, which means that from a workshop point of view, that kind of doesn't work as such. So I'm trying to sort of figure out what I'm going to do with that. There's sort of 2 revenue streams that I sort of think that I will go down. One being selling kits so that people can take away, and the other being like drop-in things where you can just come along and make something. So I'm thinking maybe doing like sublimation with that, where for those that don't know, basically you can create a design, you print it out on a special printer, and then you use like a heated element to transfer that onto another surface. So that could be a t-shirt, tote bag, it could be flip-flops, which I'm very keen to do. Very keen. So that I'm sort of thinking that, and I think maybe we could do that with like people could make like a mixed media kind of thing, and then we take a photo of it and then we use that to create the design. Or so you could use charcoal, you could use whatever you want to make the design, and then we can transfer it over, which I think is kind of quite a cool idea. Yeah, and then just do the kits and stuff to sell. But I haven't made any kit yet, so it's like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I've got to have all of the instructions, I've got to have all the equipment, I've got to find all of the different supplies to go in each kit.
So you've got a month to do this, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
No
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah, well, you see, that's an interesting thing, is like, technically I probably should have started before now. Really, I probably should have started before now. But
Do you thrive under pressure though?
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought so.
I work way better under pressure. I'm really rubbish at not. And then I don't always want to do more than I physically can within that time frame. Always.
Me too. I think
But
we have the too many ideas philosophy. Too many
yeah.
ideas, too little time.
Luckily, I've got a pretty supportive husband who will go along with most of what I say. But sometimes
Yeah.
he is like, look, I don't think you actually can do that. I don't. He's like, oh, I don't know if I want to say this, but I don't think you can. Like, well, can we try? Can we at least try?
Oh, bless
Yeah.
him. That's amazing. I cannot wait for this to be open, and I cannot wait for my guest spot in your workshop.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah, you
randomly
have to
holding
come.
some tape.
Why are you holding tape? What are
I
you
don't
doing?
know. Oh. So, throughout all of your business ventures and everything you've
Mm.
learned along the way, what is one piece of advice you wish you had known right at the beginning?
I think there's kind of two things that are sort of connected, if you will. One is that, and I like this sort of analogy, Like, people usually use bread as the analogy, and I prefer to use ice cream because I think that's a more exciting idea. But people are always concerned, and I think I definitely fall into this sometimes, that, well, there's someone else who's already doing it. Someone else is already doing that thing, right? And it's kind of this idea that actually there isn't really any new idea. There's maybe a new take on an idea, but there isn't a new idea. And you can always sort of back out. And I think there's a lot of that imposter syndrome coming in, going, oh, well, I can't do it, and other people are doing it better, and no, I can't do it. And it's like, well, oh, there's no room for me. There's no room for my idea to be there. And it's like, well, if you go down the ice cream aisle in the supermarket, do you think, oh, there's too many ice creams in there? Oh, I don't really like, everybody's doing something different, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, like, you're lactose intolerant, you know?
Yes, I'd
You
take
need
the
a
bread
vegan ice cream, right? Yeah, maybe you prefer the bread
or a
analogy.
Magnum. The
Yeah,
vegan
but
Magnum's pretty good.
yeah, exactly. But like, if Magnum had decided, oh well, there's already loads of ice creams, like, let's not bother making anything for vegans. They can just not have an ice cream, or someone else has already made a vegan ice cream. We don't need to make one. And it's like,
Yeah,
well, actually, like, people like you really want that vegan ice cream, and I think there's always someone else out there for your idea. Like,
yeah,
you've just got to find the right market. And I think, although in saying that, you need to make sure that the market is broad enough. And I think that is, in vegan world, I think some people have found that maybe earlier on, they sort of they were before their time, and they
yeah,
came out with their idea, and there wasn't enough traction, enough people to just be like, yeah,
yeah.
I'm going to go with that. So you need to make sure that there is some sort of an audience there. But just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. And I think that also leads on to just do it.
Yeah,
you know I think just give it a go, just give it a
yeah.
try. There's so many things where you're just like, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. Or, like, I remember the first time I went on and did a story where I've had my face on it. Well, I mean, even actually the first time I just did a voiceover, and everyone's like, oh, I hate the sound of my own voice. Like, yeah, everybody hates the sound of their own voice, mate. Like, everybody hates it. But when you've like done it a lot of times, the voice that you hear in your head and what you see start to merge together, and they aren't
Yeah,
so different anymore. Um,
yeah,
it, Whereas at the beginning, it's like, who's that? I don't sound like that. And yeah,
yeah,
you do
that's
actually.
true.
You absolutely do sound like that.
Yeah,
And you don't notice it as much, like as it goes on. But I was terrified. I was so scared of doing it. And then when I did do it, I mean, it took me a little bit of time to sort of get used to it. But when I did do it, it was then like, I had this sort of epiphany moment of like, I'm now communicating with people, and people are replying
hmm,
to me. Whereas I was just putting up a picture of what I'd made before, and it's like, nobody cares. Like,
yeah,
you've got to have some sort of an engagement thing, and being physically on there and being like, hello, this is me, or this is what I've got up to today, or telling people about the many stupid things that have happened to me. I often go on and do that, where
yeah.
I've like I've managed to get wire stuck in my finger that I can't get out. That was a particularly horrible day. But
I'm
like, people
sure.
relate to that, and
Yeah,
they want to hear that. And it took me so long to get to that point. And then when I did it, I was like, oh, I should have done this ages ago.
yeah.
And I think there's so many times within your business that you do that. That it's not even just starting the business; it's going on stories. It's going live. I've only done that one time. There was only one person on. But I was just like, I'm just going to do it now. I was just like, had this moment. I was like, I feel like I can do it today. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And somebody turned up and she asked me a load of questions. She was so lovely. She's like one of my really good, like, my good people in my corner all the time.
Oh,
Yeah, you need followers like that, right? And yeah, and so but it just sort of took the stress out of doing it. And it's like, well, I've done it now. So like, next time I can do it, I can plan it. I didn't even plan. I literally just went on. Um,
yeah.
but it's you've got to get out of your comfort zone sometimes and just do it.
That's really good advice. Well,
Hopefully, yeah. I think that's
thank you so much for
sorry.
everything you've shared, and you have inspired me to go and show my face on social media because I'm one of those that I'm very
Hmm.
comfortable with my voice now. But from my YouTube, I was always doing voiceovers and narrating, but don't like showing my face so much. And I don't think I've ever shown it on my Lavoco. So
I don't think so.
watch my stories later today.
I was going to say that to you actually. I was like, why aren't you on here? Why aren't you?
Yeah,
Where are you? You need to
I
be on
don't
there.
know.
But that's the thing is, I think people buy from people. It comes back around to that. They buy from people. So if you're on there and you have that connection with people, they're more likely to buy from you. You know. And also, to be honest, trying to make like a really good like reel that's like with your things or whatever. Oh, it takes so long, like so long. Whereas you can just jump on stories or even on a reel and just jump on yourself and be like, this is what I'm up to today, blah 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 blah, and just do a talk to. And it's so quick.
Yeah, that's so true. Right. Well, watch the space. You'll see me later. Thank you for
I'm
inspiring
watching.
me. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I hope you all learned a lot. I know I did. And yeah, thanks for being so open and honest with us about your experiences, Emma. I really enjoyed that. I'll
Thanks
see
for
you
your
on the next one.
questions.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye. You've been listening to the Craft Company podcast with Emma and Laura.
Join the conversation on social media at Craft a Company. Don't forget to follow us.